think we're working. I'll let Facebook do its thing and let everybody know that we are here live. Let me get set up on my end here.
Okay, I'll let Facebook do its thing and let everybody.
So I can see the comments. So if you're here live, just comment live in the comments, and then that way I know you're here. And if you're here catching the replay, then just type replay. I like knowing which of the women inside this community are actually following along with the replays or the lives, getting the training, taking imperfect action to kind of move them forward. So we'll give everybody a little bit of time to kind of get in to this training. And this training is how to choose the right workouts to get results. And I'm covering 6 key points, which I'll go over. And they're mostly the key points that a lot of my clients ask me about when it comes to workouts. So that's what we're going to focus on in today's training. So how to choose the right workouts to get results. In case you're new here, there is a guide tab at the top of the group. And if you go to that guide tab, you'll be able to see all of the previous replays in this group. They're all kind of categorized in there based on nutrition or weight loss or exercise or, interviews, for example. So they're all in there. So it's a great way to visit the guide tab to kind of see all of the previous replays. And there are a couple of other ones. If workouts is what you're interested in, there are a couple of other ones under that workout guide tab there. And so you might want to visit those there. All right. Let's dig in. Let's welcome you back into another training. We do these every Wednesday inside the group. The goal is to kind of teach you something, maybe in a new way, empower you to take imperfect action as you kind of build up your skill sets in various areas. So today, like I said, we're talking about how to choose the right workouts to get results. And we're going to dig into what we're going to actually learn in this training here. And again, if you're just popping on, just write the word live or write the word hey Cindy. But if you're here on the replay, just drop the word replay so I can see who the action takers are inside this group. Next, if I have delivered value through our trainings and challenges inside this group since you joined, or just even with today's training, just want you to consider 2 to 3 other women that would benefit from joining your tribe inside this community. And here's the thing, women talk to other women about their bodies, about diets, about exercise protocols, about supplements. But we weren't really having that deep, meaningful connection, that driven conversation that has us thinking about this stuff on a deeper, life-changing way. So when you invite 2 to 3 women to join you inside this community, you can now have more common ground with them to have kind of those more deeper, more meaningful conversations with them. So that's really the power of sharing and building your strong support network inside this community. So that little link is right at the top there. If you're new here, I also want to tell you that I do have a snoring French bulldog. I don't know. I think he's really annoyed today. So he's been extra loud as I've been doing some calls with some of you this morning. You've been hearing him. So I see Christine's here live. I see Jennifer is here live. Perfect. Good. Okay. So here are the 6 goals. So again, if you have your piece of paper and your pen or you have your notebook, you want to get it out. And we're going to cover 6 different areas in this training. The first one is we really got to touch on consistency. Again, you're going to hear that repeated over and over and over because it really is your trump card. We're going to talk about intensity. Do you need it? What is it, right? And we're going to talk about the best exercises. I get asked that a lot. We're going to talk about how do you get toned? How do we do that? And I'm going to cover the 3 key principles for workouts that I do in my own workouts, but I also do in the workouts that I give my clients and even in the gym as well. And I want you to start thinking about how to create your perfect workout, because I really want you to stop second guessing whether or not what you're doing is kind of working. So those are the 6 goals for today's training. So we've got a lot to cover here. So I just want to start off by kind of sharing a little bit of a story. I've shared a bit about my dieting days. Hey, Lucia, and hey, Laura. I've shared a bit about my dieting days through some of these trainings before. And I really used to believe that exercise was kind of the primary way to lose weight. And if I paired that with a restrictive diet, it was how I was going to get there a lot quicker. And I was going to be able to lead this idea that I had about what it took to live a fit life. The problem was that over time, my body just stopped responding the same way, right? Like the things that I used to do just stopped working, and I needed to kind of run harder or further, spend more time in the gym, or I needed to get more restrictive. and then spending time confused, like, why wasn't more exercise getting me more results? Why wasn't it changing the way I was feeling, the way I was thinking and looking? And why wasn't it overall changing what I wanted, right? Why wasn't more getting me there quicker or getting me more of it? And then it went kind of sideways. Exercise became about control. So my worst case scenario wouldn't come true, right? It became about controlling my body to be a certain size, to look a certain way, to control my food, right? So that I didn't gain the weight or rebound the weight. And I really went from a place of really loving it to a place of really being obsessed with it. And it took me a long time to figure out how that more was not better. I learned if I just worked out smarter, which we've heard apply in other principles, right? But maybe we haven't thought about it when it comes to our workouts. And I looked at just increasing my intensity to a level just above my comfort zone. And here's what I see women do is, their comfort zone is here and they really want to lose weight. So they jump right to here because that's where they want it. That's their end goal, is to end up here. We don't often think about scaling up to get there. So it was really about how, and I was caught in that too. So it's really about where is my comfort level and where am I sliding in just above that, right? And so that's where I didn't have a workout, and that made me not have to work out as long or as often. And here's the kicker. This was actually the real kicker for me. My cravings weren't so intense. I had more energy and things just started to take shape the way I wanted them to. I don't know if you noticed that, but when you increase your exercise volume, right, sometimes your cravings increase too. Or sometimes as you cut back your calories or clean up your diet, your cravings increase too, right? And then you're fighting, that on top of the crazy schedule that you're keeping up with your workouts. So here's what I learned about my hunger and cravings because I was working out so much, right? So what I learned was that there's a hormone called leptin, and it's a hormone produced by your fat cells, and it's considered the primary thing that kind of regulates our fat mass. It's the master controller, and it really helps to regulate your appetite and how many calories you burn. So as you lose fat, your body creates less of this hormone, less leptin. Less leptin production means you're hungrier, your brain says, give me more food, and then your metabolism slows down. So remember, your body really prefers, that balance, that homeostasis. So as you lose weight, your body adjusts to return you back to the state that it knows, the state that it feels in balance with or feels the safest with. And even if it's not as healthy for your body. Therefore, weight loss can be really tough as you lose. Your body has mechanisms in place that make you kind of gain, right? Make it harder to sustain. So here I was trying to do more and more and more, trying to get back to what I used to do and then adding more and more, and it wasn't working. And when you start to think about how it increased your cravings, it drained my energy. I started to use it as a control thing versus really enjoying it. But then you start to realize kind of this hormone thing. It's like, it's not me. It's not my willpower. I'm not broken. It's like there's things are happening inside my body that I don't get to see. But when I understand that, I know that there are things that are trying to keep me in a safe zone, even though my goal is over here. And that's why cravings increase. That's why, what used to work stops working. And that's why, it kind of dysregulates our metabolism there too. So first things first, let's dive into consistency. We always got to start there. I know it's not kind of like a unicorn kind of word, right? It's kind of a blah word, but it can be hard to find a way to frame your goals around nutrition and workouts when consistency kind of goes out the window. Consistency, again, isn't shiny. It's not fun as those workouts maybe you see on Instagram, other people doing, but true progress, true change can only come from the things we do consistently, even if it looks different from day to day or doesn't always happen perfectly. So consistency beats hands down random perfection any day. It's more about slow changes and a commitment to do something over time. That something can change depending on a multitude of factors, but it's different than doing all or nothing. And I'll give you an example. So my husband today came home and he was like, I did my workout this morning, and he's like, I'm just not having a good day. And I was like, well, what's not making you have a good day? And he's like, well, first of all, he's got a toothache. So I don't know if you've ever been around a man that has a toothache, but he has a toothache. But besides that is he had a workout and he was saying, my workout just wasn't good. It wasn't good, right? And here I am thinking, okay, he's under a little bit of stress. He's got this toothache. I was like, good for you for still getting up in the morning and working out. But for him, he judged it as it was a bad workout and therefore I'm having a bad day. So we don't give ourselves this grace to be like, it's a day to have a workout, but it's not always going to be our best workout. And if we change our mindset into that, it's a day to have a workout, I still move my body, then we start to see opportunity. You can see how he can create a little bit more of a funk for himself if he's just saying like it was a bad workout, therefore my day is going to be bad. So we don't know how to calibrate besides doing all and nothing. So when you're consistent, it might feel boring, but it can feel amazing at the same time as you start to really change your habits and move closer into the kind of person you want to be. But when it goes out the window, it can be hard to find some solid ground to stand on and really start to play mind tricks with you. Have you experienced this? Head to the comments and let me know where it kind of felt amazing, but just as quickly you kind of felt lost and it felt tricky. So pop into the comments and just say, yes, I know this feeling. I know this feeling that you're describing to me, Cindy. And so with consistency, it often boils down to our perception. Let me know if this is your tripwire. So we're heading back to the comments again. So you're letting me know, yes, I have experienced this. Yes, it felt amazing, but I quickly lost track and I quickly got tricky there. So let me know with a yes. When it comes to consistency, it often boils down to our perception. So let me know if this is your tripwire. I have this perception that to be consistent, I must do X. Let's think about our X. All the time in X way, let's think about the way, and more than I should be doing currently. So this makes you feel less consistent and leads to a lot of self-judgment. Would that be your tripwire? Give me thumbs up if that's your tripwire, right? And so you have this perception of when I did this goal or when I did this thing, consistent to me was doing X all the time in X way. And now I'm not able to do X all the time in X way, right? And therefore I'm caught up in this I should be doing and I'm not doing. So I'm caught up in this loop of self-judgment, right? And then that can be our tripwire where we get into what's the point? Why bother? I can't do it well enough. Just kind of like that story I shared from this morning. So when I talk to women, I often hear them describe consistency in this way. I must do it, must be this done this way and this often at this pace or this intensity, right? They don't give themselves kind of permission or wiggle room to feel different day to day. Some days you kind of have more for your workouts. Other days you just don't. Sometimes your mind is full, you're emotionally spent, and you're physically tired, right? So your workouts, even your nutrition, looks different and feels different on those days. So we then trip up in self-judgment and all or nothing thinking. So I'm going to ask you, is there still value in doing half your workout in a day or a given week? Drop a yes or a no. Is there value? So you're like, set out your workout schedule. This is the intensity. This is what I'm going to be doing or whatever. And then you have one of those days where you're just like mindful, emotionally spent, physically tired. And is there value in still doing half the workout? Or is there value in just slowing down the pace, slowing down the intensity, slowing down the weights? Is there still value in doing that? I want to hear your yes or your no there, because that's going to tell me what kind of mindset we're in when it comes to workout. So drop a yes or drop a no. Simple as that. All right. And oh yes, even if I do 5 minutes, yes, it beats nothing. Yes, Christine, you got it. So this leads to your enoughness, not feeling good enough. And then into kind of a comparison trap against others and how they execute their consistency, but never questioning if that fits with you and your goals in your life. So you're kind of stuck in someone else's plan, or it's the comparison against what you used to do back before the demands of work and the kids and the husband, comparing ourselves kind of to our former self. So to get to consistent, we have to define it. We have to define it. I have to define it for me. You have to define it for you. That's a great starting place. Then look at all the ways you show up for yourself consistently. And when I say look at all the ways, you can look at it from a nutrition and from an exercise lens. But what if you looked at it in other ways? You looked at it from your spiritual self, your work self, your social self, your your family or your connection or your friends or your recreation, that sort of thing, right? Or your spirituality, or your financial. How do you show up consistently in other areas to kind of show yourself, hey, I'm capable of this consistency thing. I already have a barometer of what it looks like for me. I've just never really applied it to this nutrition and exercise thing. I've kind of been in this all or nothing kind of thing, right? So it's really defining it for yourself. Then we kind of look at all the ways we kind of show up consistently. So today's training is all about workouts. Are you being specific, for example, about, because this will help you build your consistency. Are you being specific? How many times a week? At what time of day? Are you putting it on your calendar? Are you setting a calendar reminder? What do you need to have to be successful at doing that workout or doing that exercise? Do you need to set out your clothes? Do you need to prepare some food ahead of time? How are you anticipating the week ahead? Right? Those are all different ways that we can look at consistency when it comes to workouts, right? Are we doing that work? Are we setting ourselves up to define what it looks like so we're not caught up in someone else's story? Are we looking at how do we define it so that it's not an all or nothing thinking? And are we setting up the questions to ask ourselves to measure our own consistency so that we're not caught up in like this black and white kind of thinking? So is this making sense? Starting off with consistency, I hope I highlighted how it really is the trump card to get the most out of your workouts and your nutrition, but also really seeing those results. It's the biggest needle mover for you. So drop the word sense if this makes sense. And I gave you a bit of insight on some next steps for you when it comes to consistency, because really nothing else is going to matter in this presentation or this training if you don't have consistency there. If you haven't defined it, you don't have the parameters, you can't look at it how you're already executing it in other ways, and you haven't asked yourself the question to set yourself up for success. So none of this else is going to matter. All right, drop the word sense. I want to know if this makes sense to you. And I get it. There are women I talk to that don't want to break the chain. They are building habits and don't want to miss anything because they don't want their worst case scenario to come true. There I go messing up. Here I am failing at this. Here I am getting lazy again. I'm losing everything I have built and done. So we have this kind of like slippery slope mentality. A lot of people do, and a lot of my clients do, especially if they see themselves like breaking the streak, then they think I'm just going to stop caring, right? And then that's kind of their worst scenario. If I stop caring about all this, then there goes my weight, there goes my habits, I'm just going to lose control of it all. And again, we want to do the introspective work to explore what consistency looks like for you, define it. What would a level 1 look like and what would a level 10 look like? And how can you maintain a level 5 or a level 6 all the time? Because then that means we're not swinging the pendulum from all or nothing. We're keeping a baseline of exercise habits that keep us still progressing. And that feels way better than starting over there. So define what a 1 looks like and what a 10 looks like. And how much further ahead would you be if you always maintain kind of that level 6 baseline? I bet you would be further ahead in consistency and with your results too. It also takes the pressure off, especially when you're competing with, guilt for taking time out for yourself, work deadlines, vacations, and unexpected feelings. So kind of like my husband's story that I shared with you at the very beginning, if he defined what his level 6 was, and if he took inventory of this is how I feel mentally, emotionally, and physically right now, and he said, what would my level 6? I bet you that workout he did would feel pretty dang good at a level 6. But because he hasn't taken the time to really define his level 1 and his level 10, what consistency looks for him, by him, he's always measuring it against his level 10, and therefore it doesn't feel good enough. But then that means that we're really not honoring ourselves on an emotional, mental, and physical level. Hope that makes sense. Give me a thumbs up if it does. Okay, so next let's talk about this whole intensity thing, right? Because a lot of my clients ask me about that. So can we challenge our bodies? Yes, we can challenge our bodies. Can we do hard things? Yes, of course we can do hard things, but it's about really being smart about it. So when I talk to women, one of the barriers to being consistent is injury, and other is like feeling like crap, right? Like you feel burned out and drained, or you're going into the intense workout already feeling burned out and drained. And this leads to feeling really unmotivated to train. This isn't about not working out. It's about needing a better approach or strategy. whether that is changing our beliefs about what kind of workouts lead to results, beliefs about rest days, because we do have, especially if we're a go-getter and we don't like to break the train, we can easily get into a mindset of, should I take a rest day? Should I not take a rest day? Am I lazy? Oh, here I go again. Oh no, now it's going to lead into 2 and then to 3, right? Or sticking to something that isn't working for you, except really making you tired. And sometimes it's needing kind of an entirely different workout. So it's really about looking at a better approach or strategy in those kind of areas. So last week's training, we talked about how to be consistent with your workouts and kind of avoid the burnout and the boredom. I suggest you give that one a listen so you learn why challenging your workouts is a good idea. And today we'll cover how to do it kind of smartly. So intensity is really important. It comes down to how you are challenging yourself in the workout. So again, last week's training kind of covered a lot of that, but you can't expect intensity 6 to 7 days out of the week. Some days are going to just be workout days, and other times it's going to be harder and more challenging. So do you have that balance there? Do you have that balance, or are you constantly I'm in my comfort zone. I know how much weight I can lift. I know how many reps I can do. This is exactly what I do. And you haven't really progressed to challenge yourself just above that comfort level in a long time. Is this how you see your workouts currently? Are you being challenged in some ways, but not in others? And not challenged in a way that you're going to get hurt or burn out or it's unmotivating. And, are you mixing in, for example, low intensity, high intensity, and moderate workouts? And when I say intensity, that could look like interval training or cardio, but it could also look like weight training. Are you doing that? So drop a yes or drop a no. What I see a lot of women get into is the routine of doing the same thing over and over and over and never progressing. It's kind of like you're writing a test and you constantly get a 69 on the test. Every day, every time you go into that workout, you're getting a 69, 60. I don't know why I picked that number, but 69, right? You're never 70, 71, 72, 73. You're never seeing those incremental shifts. You're constantly putting in the same amount of work in the same way to get the 69. So when I work with clients with a background of working out all the time and intensely all the time, we need to have a conversation about longevity and everything else that is going on in their lives. And I just had to do this the other day with a client where we were talking about intensity of their workouts. And now she was getting to a point where she was feeling burnt out and mad about it. So we had to talk about how to cycle her workouts so that she had, time to be intense, time to slow it down, and then time to back off and kind of rest, that sort of thing. So that's what we had to have a conversation about, because we had to talk about the long game. Even though she had this weight loss goal, we had to talk about, we still want to be here for a long time. We don't want to do it and then stop. So we want to consider, what is your environment like? What are your family responsibilities? What is your job like? What kind of sleep are you getting? And we're going to come up with a plan that best matches the demands that you have on your time and your body. So sometimes consistency is a matter of, is it realistic and is this necessary, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at when it comes to intensity. So think about it. If your comfort level is here, how do you go here with your comfort level? How do you challenge yourself? How do you do that in your workouts, right? And then we got to match it based on our environment, our family responsibilities, our jobs, our sleep, that sort of thing. We need to match it so that we can then say, when those things ramp up or they're here, how do we then calibrate the workout to be here? And when those things aren't there, how do we calibrate the workout to be here? So that's how we kind of swing in terms of, so that we're not burning out, we're thinking about long-term, and we're including intensity into our workouts, whether that's through cardio or whether that's through weight training. So next we want to explore what the best exercises are for toning. If you asked me to pick one exercise, I'd say walking. I still can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth, because there was a time where I downplayed walking. Walking has many, many underrated benefits, and that tend to go to get you outside, forces you to move your body and even clear your mind. And anyone can do it. It's unlikely to lead to injury in general, maybe today because it's icy. It's enjoyable because you can do other activities while you walk, like you can do it with a friend, you can listen to a podcast, music, or just take in the surroundings, right? I'm not downplaying strength. I think it's essential to everything, but exercise is much more than finding something to be consistent at. It must be in alignment with who you are, where you're at, and where you're going. So toning was a marketing word used to separate the look we wanted women to have versus men. But what it really means is muscle, right? We can't have a toned look without muscle. But what women express is that they don't want to be bulky like men and still have a fear about lifting too heavy, right? They think when we say we use toning because marketing led us that way. And then we say toning because we have a fear of building muscle, because we think if we lift heavy or we put on muscle, that will look like men, will just get really bulky. So if your women getting stronger is the most empowering thing you can do in the gym, nothing will make you feel more badass than busting out your first, set of chin-ups, for example. So more importantly, strength training can benefit women in so many ways, from kind of fat loss to improving aging, which we've kind of talked about in a lot of the other videos as well. And while it's true that men start with more muscle mass and strength, pound for pound, women will gain strength faster than men. So here's the thing, the fitness industry will do everything it can to twist itself into a knot when talking to women about the very real possibility that toning is about building muscle. Ever notice how the kind of talk is all about the socially acceptable way for women to get stronger and build muscle while implying that it's okay if we want to stay small at the same time. But we get to take up space, guys. Toning is when you give kind of muscle that shape. The way to do that is to build the muscle. It's hard for women to put on muscle in comparison to men. The women you see with muscle have really like a dedicated practice that is coordinated with nutrition that extends far beyond consistency. The average woman just doesn't have kind of like the practice or the commitment or really like the time to do this over time. But building muscle lets you function and live longer. You don't need to worry about being bulky. Adding bulk is a result of how many calories you eat. Lifting will make you stronger version of yourself, and you'll gain muscle and strength relative to your physique. So when it comes to weight loss or toning, you need both nutrition and exercise. So thinking training has a minimal impact on weight loss can be misleading. You can lose weight by eating fewer calories and not working out, but that weight won't necessarily be all body fat. In fact, your body will pull from both existing fat and muscle stores to find the energy it needs. So if you only focus on diet for weight loss, you're likely to lose muscle and impact your metabolism and not maximize health improvements. And if your goal is to build muscle, the same holds true. You need to train harder to break down muscle tissue for new growth, and then eat plenty of extra calories to help you recover and facilitate new growth. So the takeaway here is building a better physique and a healthier body requires both diet and training. Worrying about which one is more important isn't really worth the time, and it can really get you caught up in this all or nothing kind of thinking, which you see a lot of women do. They approach weight loss and they only do the exercise thing, or they only do the restrictive dieting thing, right? And what we're learning here is we kind of need both in order to build kind of that muscle or that toned look that we're kind of looking for. So drop into the comments and tell me what you just learned about toning, because I want to see if this is like commuting or like, if I'm communicating it clearly. So I just want to know, what did you just learn about toning that you can then take away and take some imperfect action on there? Okay, so as you drop into the comments and tell me that, I'm going to move on to the next part, which are the 3 key principles. And I really want to know, are you utilizing these 3 key principles? So the first one is short. Not only do your training sessions need to be short, because we don't have time to spend all day in the gym or live there, but when you do shorter workouts, there are also more psychologically satisfied, and you have kind of the mental bandwidth to push harder. So that's one way you can increase your intensity too. And the workouts are more effective for body change, again, because of the intensity factor. So does that mean that we don't need 1 hour workouts or 45-minute workouts? Sure, right? That's one way we can moderate, we can change it up, just like we talked about in the very beginning. But there are kind of rewards in doing shorter workouts because we can up the intensity because we know that they're shorter. Intense is number two, the second key principle. The more intense you train, the more force you put on the body to respond. So, but your ability to train intensely depends on a few things. Time, right? Otherwise, your workout needs to be shorter. Recovery, only push when you have plenty of downtime. And your nutrition quality and having a level of self-awareness required to understand how intense feels for you, since it's really subjective, right? It's really based on your exertion. So you could use your heart rate, for example, to see how hard you're going, but my heart might look different than someone else's heart, but we're equally pushing as hard based on where we're at. And generally, you want to think about intensity in two ways. So you can think about the level of breathlessness and level of muscular demand, how much it's exerting you to lift that up, right? So if I was doing a 40-pound shoulder head press, right, that's going to exert a lot more effort than me doing a 10-pound shoulder head press for me. So you can reach muscle failure without getting breathless, and you can get out of breath without feeling any muscle exertion. So notice I didn't mention sweat factor. Sweat factor is not actually a good indicator of a workout, of a good workout. The aim is to generate both at different times during your workouts, not the whole time, but sometimes. So once you reach breathlessness, or you reach that like kind of muscle burning fatigue stage, rest until you can do it again at the same intensity. This is kind of a self-generated interval training, and it's individually tailored to you. So it's critical that you learn and listen to your body to do this safely. So what I see is you'll go tense and then you'll go tense again, but you'll notice that your time decreases or your ability to push hard decreases. So you do want to build in that recovery so that you can go at it at the same intensity the next time you go into it. So that's one way to build in intensity. And the third key principle is heavy. I don't care if you're 50 years old or 65 years old, your muscles need to be kind of taxed enough to respond, and that happens kind of what we call progressive overload. So will you turn into the Hulk like we talked about? No, but what you do is you'll add more lean kind of curve, or your body will take shape. Your inches will come off, because unlike the myth that fat weighs more than muscle, that's not true. 5 pounds of muscle and 5 pounds of fat weigh the same, but 5 pounds of muscle take up less space in your body. So that's why you lose inches. And not that you must change your body at all, but if the goal is to improve your health or your body composition or your performance, then you can't get away from weight training, especially with heavier weights than what feels like kind of comfy, right? So many women ask me, so what's heavy, right? And that's really subjective. It's how heavy something feels for you. And you need to build up slowly so that your movement stays controlled and safe. Building a base of strength, it will kind of prime your neuromuscular movement patterns, change the shape of your body, and allow you to add weight safely over time. But in general, you can probably lift more than you give your body credit for, right? Or you give yourself credit for, and your body responds when you challenge it. And for those women who say, yeah, but when I do it, I get really sore, and then I can't go to the bathroom, I can't do the stairs, can't do my laundry or whatever. It's really about, can you do your comfort, and can you go here? And once you master here, can you go here? What happens is we go from here to here, and that's why that happens. But yes, we want to be really safe. Okay, so what variable is currently missing from your workout? So would you say it's like you're constantly tailored towards these longer workouts and you're missing the boat on the shorter ones? Are you missing the boat on the intensity like we described, so the level of breathlessness, for example, or kind of the amount of demands on your muscle or your exertion? Or are you missing the heaviness factor, building in that heaviness factor? Because we already kind of deconstructed the myth that you won't bulk up, you won't look like a man, and that toning is related to muscle. And we also deconstructed the myth that muscle and fat weigh the same, 5 pounds, 5 pounds. It's that muscle takes up less space. So which one are you missing? Are you missing the short, the intense, or the heavy in your workouts? So lastly, we want to go into how do you set up your own workouts? drop them into the comments. I'm not ignoring them. So we want to really keep it simple. We want to build each workout with what's called like a squat, a push, a pull, a hinge, and a carry. This is where you're going to want your notebook as well. So for example, when we look at a squat, it could be a body weight squat, a front back squat, a goblet squat, a box squat, a leg press. Those are all examples. So we can look at, how am I building in a squat today, right? So we can do this on split days. So we can do lower body days and upper body days, or we can do total body days. So what element of a squat do we want to have in our workouts? The next one is a push. So we can do push-ups of any kind. We can do a chest press, a banded chest press, or flies. So if we're doing a total body workout, is how are we going to incorporate a push? Then we can do a pull. Pull could be anything like, if you had a sled pull, a TRX row, a seated row, a single arm row, anything like that. So we've gone from squat, push, pull, and we got a hinge, something like a glute bridge, or a hip thrust, or a deadlift. Then we got something that's more knee dominant, because squats are more hip dominant. So we want to look at, lunges, step ups, leg drops, those sorts of things, and a carry. A carry kind of like a farmer's carry or a suitcase carry, which is a great abdominal workout. So when you're setting up a total body workout, think squat, push, pull, hinge, knee dominant, like something like a lunge or a step up, and then a carry. So then what you want to do is you want to pick 3 to 5 movements, right? Never miss a rep. We don't ever really want to strain, right? It's just about here. Do 10 reps in total for each exercise, and then train 4 to 5 days a week. So we want to consider how to get it done in 15 to 30 minutes by adding some intensity. And you want to do full body movements and a variety of movement patterns. So I just broke down how to set up like a total body workout, how to pick those exercises, pick 3 to 5 in total exercises, right? We don't want to strain. 10 reps is a great starting place. Start with 4 to 5 days a week, and increase the intensity so that your workouts are 15 to 30 minutes. So closing thoughts, and I have a few, here they are in a nutshell. You're not obligated to do hours of a workout a day. Long workouts aren't automatically better. Chunking up your movement into smaller time blocks, so a few minutes here or there, is totally valid and effectively, especially if it's going to make you more consistent. And if you're busy and want to make the most of your movement time, focus on what's most efficient there. All right, so those are some closing thoughts. Consider the following questions to help you kind of evaluate your own workouts. Are you moving your body in a way that's joyful and fun for you? Because that's going to help you be consistent. Are you letting perfect and not done get in the way of good and done? Kind of like, my husband's story in the beginning. Are you judging the crap out of your movement or your workouts, thinking they aren't good enough because you didn't end up exhausted, sweaty on the floor, or wanting to puke, right? So we got to assess that. And realistically, how much time do you have to move? Can you split it into few shorter chunks instead of one longer chunk? And is your body begging for rest? If so, is there something less intense you can do? So on the bigger picture side of things, you have to consider what you do outside of your training, like getting enough sleep, eating well. So maybe 80% of the time, like your protein, your fiber, your whole foods, right? Not stressing the other 20% of the time about what you're eating, not eating, or just stress in general, and really kind of enjoying the process and being comfortable. So drop into the comments and tell me what your 1 to 3 action steps that we covered. Is it that you got to focus more on the consistency thing that we talked about? Is it that you got to focus more on the intensity thing that we talked about? Is it this idea of best exercises? We got to kind of let that go now. Is it that I've changed your mindset about toning? Is it that you are going to look at the 3 key principles of your workouts, like we talked about, the short, the heavy, and the intensity? Or is it that, okay, now I've got an idea of how to create my plan, and that's my next step? What's your 1 to 3 action steps that we covered? And again, before I end here, I want you to drop into the comments, because I'm going to love seeing that all come in. But if I've delivered value through our training, just today or just by being in the group, again, consider 2 to 3 women that would benefit from joining our tribe inside this community and help you have more deeper, meaningful connections, about this kind of stuff, so that we're not talking about, you know, the next diet or the next supplement or what have you. We're really being more connected because we're connected through the trainings that we're having, and then we're having more deeper conversations with women, so we feel less alone and just build up our connection too. So I'd ask you to do that. Okay, I talked a lot in today's training. It was a little bit longer today. I hope I delivered value to you, and I'm going to see that by your comments coming in, you telling me what your 1 to 3 imperfect action steps are, and also inviting other 2 to 3 women to join your tribe. I'm Coach Cindy. I hope to see you here next week, and thanks so much for joining me.